Now then, I show you a canceled check dated 22 January 2007 from Sterner Ernst and Bauer Development Group made payable to West Baltimore Hoops Incorporated in the amount of $11,000. And this dated 23 January 2007, a check drawn on the West Baltimore Hoops Incorporated account in the amount of $11,000 and a deposit slip dated 23 January, same year, to your personal account in the amount of $11,000.
I come here to help, but y'all out for blood. I'm not answering no more questions.
You are invoking your right against self-incrimination, sir?
Damn right.
Then we'll conclude this testimony.
The Wire is heralded as one of the greatest television shows of all time, and for good reason. Though it's fictional, it realistically portrays the interplay of our institutions and how corrupt and broken they can be. The city of Baltimore is the main character of the show, and we get to see it from a variety of perspectives, from the street level where drugs and gang violence are rampant, to a political level where funds are misplaced and false promises are made. Every individual character is just one representation of hundreds of other real people, and one character, Clay Davis, represents the silver-tongued politician who is more of a con man than a man who serves the interests of the people. The citizens of Baltimore love Clay Davis because he's funny and charismatic, and this overshadows the corruption he constantly engages in. But corruption is corruption. If he were a drug dealer, he would be poisoning the community just as much as he is now. No matter what institution a criminal is a part of, the game is the game, and they will play it no matter how many people get hurt in the process. Cicero's De Inventione is a guide to using rhetoric to form arguments. Most of his guidelines are presented in a legal context, with an accused/defendant and a prosecutor. In this video, I will employ a few of Cicero's tactics to develop an opening statement that accuses Clay Davis of the misuse of government funds. The show speaks for itself when it comes to the importance of cases like these.
A case like this here, where you show who gets paid behind all the tragedy and the fraud, where you show how the money routes itself, how we're all of us vested, all of us complicit.
Career case, huh?
Baby, I could die happy.
Before I get into the speech itself, I'd first like to point out pieces of Cicero's text I will be implementing and how I will be doing so. An exordium is a passage that brings the mind of an auditor to a proper condition to receive the rest of the speech. This will be accomplished if he becomes well-disposed, attentive, and receptive. Therefore, one who wishes the speech to have a good exordium must make a careful study beforehand of the kind of case which he has to present. There are 5 kinds of cases: honorable, difficult, mean, ambiguous, and obscure. Cicero classifies these cases by the nature of the context of the case, and how a jury or listener's feelings may be swayed. If the defendant's actions may be considered noble, it is considered an honorable case. If the defendant's actions do not elicit sympathy, it is considered difficult. If the defendant's actions may easily be judged positively or negatively, then it is considered ambiguous. I understand this case as ambiguous as Senator Davis presents himself as doing his job atypically to keep up with the demands of the people who hold him in high regard. However, the evidence suggests that the real motive behind his atypical handling of finances is self-profit, or at the very least illegal in nature. The second passage reads as follows. If the case is partly honorable and partly discreditable, or ambiguous, it will be proper to try to win goodwill so that the case may seem to be transferred to the honorable class. When, however, the case is really in the honorable class, it will be possible to either pass over the introduction, or, if it is convenient, we shall begin with the narrative or with the law or some very strong argument which supports our plea. If, on the contrary, it is desirable to use the introduction, we must use the topics designed to produce goodwill, that the advantage which already exists may be increased. Senator Davis is a well-liked man in the community who keeps well-hated company. Goodwill is tricky to adopt as Senator Davis is already established as a well-liked man, which is why I chose to partially allude to a narrative/argument that sows doubt into Senator Davis's character. To focus on goodwill, however, I will attempt to appeal to the jury/audience's goodwill as members of the community, and former administration's failure, which Davis was a part of, to carry out the will of the people. The final part of Cicero's advice I will be implementing reads as follows. Goodwill is acquired from the person of the opponents if we can bring them into hatred, unpopularity, or contempt. They will be hated if some act of theirs is presented which is base, haughty, cruel, or malicious. They will become unpopular if we present their power, political influence, wealth, family connections, and their arrogant and intolerable use of these advantages, so that they seem to rely on these rather than on the justice of their case. They will be brought into contempt if we reveal their laziness, carelessness, sloth, indolent pursuits, or luxurious idleness. I implement this advice by pointing to Senator Davis's political connections, which involve criminals, killers, and other disliked politicians. I consider Mayor Royce to be disliked due to his controversy and loss of the most recent mayoral election. His lack of financial records points to either carelessness or misuse of wealth, and these implications are further supported by the connections that he keeps.
Senator, there have been rumors of a last-minute plea offer.
How can I plead to what I didn't do?
What are you reading there, Senator?
This here? Prometheus Bound, an ancient play, one of the oldest we have, about a simple man who was horrifically punished by the powers that be for the terrible crime of trying to bring light to the common people. In the words of Acilius, no good deed goes unpunished. I cannot tell you how much consolation I find in these slim pages.
One more question, Senator.
Ladies and gentlemen, I do believe I have my day in court, and I will see you inside.
Senator R. Clayton Davis is beloved by many in the city of Baltimore. He is known to work closely with the ministers, leaders, and black legislative caucus who serve those who don't have a voice. This is how he presents himself, a man for the people. However, we all know that trusting authority wholeheartedly is rash, especially in Baltimore. We see it on a street level where police are more concerned with bashing corner boys' heads in than keeping the peace. But we also see it on a bureaucratic level. Consider the previous mayor, Clarence V. Royce, an avid supporter of Senator Davis who withheld funding for a witness protection program leading to the murder of a state witness. If Mayor Royce was willing to put money before the people of Baltimore and Senator Davis was close friends with him, who's to say that Davis wouldn't be willing to do the same? Senator Davis is accused of stealing money from charities and fundraisers for his personal use. There are no official records of the allocation of these funds back to the city. In fact, there are deposits in his personal account that have the same amount as those received from his charities 1 or 2 days after receiving them. Senator Davis attributes the lack of records to not having enough time to process them, as he has many transactions to make and many people to serve. However, the people in his service have a history of obstructing societal progress rather than promoting it. One of his former associates, Stringer Bell, was partners with notorious drug kingpin Avon Barksdale, who was responsible for several drug-related deaths and murders. His personal driver/assistant, Damian Lavelle Price, is a convicted felon who holds 3 positions within Senator Davis's nonprofit organizations, making a salary of over $100,000, and he suspiciously only carried out his dealings with the senator in cash. A man who associates with known criminals is already suspect, but a man who holds no records in a government office while dealing with said criminals is even more suspect. If Senator Davis presents himself as a man of the people, they are not the hard-working people and community members that keep Baltimore alive. They are the people actively working to uproot and destroy the city for their benefit. If other politicians are close enough to Clay to be aware of and allow the senator swindling, they may also be liable for the mishandling of government funds.
Clay.
Think I'm gonna be the scapegoat for the whole damn machine? Shit.